Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to another broadcast of Chatting with the Rev. Well, today is Inauguration Day, and at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, President Donald John Trump Sr. was sworn into office to become the 45th President of the United States of America. Yes, it's done. It's over. In terms of the election, in terms of the results, and in terms of the office of Barack Obama. President Barack Obama, is now former President Barack Obama. He sits alongside of Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush, William Jefferson Clinton, and George W. Bush as a former President of the United States of America. Good afternoon to my wife, Lady T. Teresa Jeanette. My wife just said to me, I was in my room and preparing for this broadcast, and she yelled out to me that at this very moment, about 3 hours after the swearing-in process took place, that Washington, D.C. is a hot keg at the moment. Clashes between protesters of the Trump administration and the police is now going on. And I say to them, and I say to every American, what should be our response to Donald J. Trump becoming our 45th president? Should we be isolationist? Hello, Carrie. Should we be isolationist? Should we be obstructionist? Should we be on the streets confronting the police about something that already has taken place? What should we do? My wife says that they're rioting, tearing things up. And she says, for what? And she also says, and I concur completely, he's now our president. So why tear up the city? Your city. Why tear up the national capital and the streets therein? Is all the efforts that are being made today to obstruct and to distract going to change the fact that at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, Donald John Trump Sr. became the 45th President of the United States? I tuned in because I wanted to hear what this man had to say. And I wanted to hear what he promised, and I want to hear what he said, and I want to hear the things that I have concerns about that he may do. And as I was listening there very intently, I jotted down a few things. Of his promises, what he stated in the inaugural address. He began by saying, government will be controlled by the people and not by the power brokers in Washington, D.C. He went on to say, it is not important which party is in control of government, but rather that the control of government be returned back into the hands of the people. And he says that's what he's going to do. He said, I may be elected president, but this is your election. You are the people who are going to run this government. That's what he says. That's his promise. He went on to say, and I'm going to quote some of the things he says. He says, Americans should buy and sell American. Instead of getting all of our products from other nations and importing them to this nation. We should be hiring Americans instead of exporting our talents and including people that are not American in the job force, and supporting governments that are bringing over items and supplies over here where we are actually hurting our own citizens. He went on to say that the infrastructure is going to be improved. He meant roads and schools and bridges and highways and byways going to be improved throughout the nation. This is his promise. Now, a promise is as good as a man's word. Even he said in his speech that many promises have already been made over the years, but very few have been implemented. That's what our president has said. It was interesting to note that there were about 69 congresspersons, many from the Black Caucus, that refused to attend the inauguration of Donald J. Trump. But it was interesting also to note who did attend. First, every president, but that means James Earl Carter was there. George W. Bush was there. They were there. And William Clinton and his wife Hillary were right there at the inauguration, sitting not too far from Donald Trump, his wife, and his family. They heard everything that he said, and they were there. The only president that was not there was President George H.W. Bush, because he's in the hospital in intensive care, and his wife, too, has been ill, Barbara Bush. But every president that could be there was there. Senator Bernie Sanders was there. Nancy Pelosi, the minority leader for the Congress, was there. Schumer, who is the minority leader for the Democrats in the Senate, he was there. And many, many others. Because whether we like it or not, he is our president. Whether we voted for him or not, he is our president. And instead of us turning over cars and confronting police officers and the like, tearing up another one of our cities to demonstrate our dissatisfaction with the results, and finally the election of Donald J. Trump and Mike Pence as his running mate and now vice president, we need to understand something. That where our minds and our hearts and our attentions are on this particular man, Congress is already doing some things that are going to alter our life in a significant way. Already. Did you know that Congress has already voted to repeal much of Obamacare, really known as the Affordable Care Act? They've already voted to repeal much of it and ultimately to repeal all of it, even before they have their own plan in order to replace it, if they have a plan at all. Did you know that's already been passed? It's not something that's going to be passed. Before he even became president, before he put his right hand up, before he put his left hand on the Bible, they'd already done that a few hours beforehand. Bernie Sanders had proposed that there would be no changes in what we call entitlement programs that affect every single one of you sitting here. And will affect others as well. Most of Americans, to be actually honest with you. And this is what the entitlement program includes. He said they've already voted. Pastor Tasha. They've already voted. Congress has already voted. While our eyes are on Capitol Hill at the ceremony of the new president being sworn in, the Congress has already taken some action that's going to impact every single one of us. They've already voted in favor of repealing Obamacare, which is really the Affordable Care Act, but the Democrat did such a poor job in letting people know that Obamacare really is this, the Affordable Care Act, and most of us are under it in one way or another. Particularly if you have someone who is physically challenged, developmentally challenged, mentally challenged, some program or another fits into this category of the Affordable Care Act. But do you know they've already agreed and they've already passed legislation already, or at least a proposal that they're going to bring before the full Senate to repeal Obamacare, a.k.a. the Affordable Care Act? While our eyes are on the man, the other men and women of Congress are doing us in anyhow. Hello, Mark. Good afternoon. Did you know that Bernie Sanders' suggestion that we don't change the entitlement programs failed, was defeated? Which means they're going to change the entitlement programs. And I wanted to know all about it. I know in my mind some of the entitlement programs, but I wanted to get a list. So I went on the internet, Googled it just a few minutes ago. And this is what I found out. This is what is all included in the entitlement programs that are going to be changed, repealed, or just totally demolished altogether. These are the entitlement programs. The first one, Medicaid and CHIP. Medicaid and CHIP, both are health programs. One to help children, the other to help the impoverished and those who are disabled, or as we call it, ability challenged. The next entitlement program is Social Security. Social Security, yes, yes, yes. The Republicans are saying, well, at least the powers that be, most of them are Republican in this instance, who denied and who refused and allowed to fail. Hello, Arthur. To denied and allowed to fail Sanders' request, or at least his proposal. There's my cousin Lisa. Well, the Congress has agreed, at least the Senate has agreed to not agree on this, and they failed, and they did not pass his proposal not to change the entitlement programs. They said we're going to change it if we need to, which means they could change it, they could repeal it, they could just totally demolish it, and they include Medicaid and CHIP. They include Social Security, and everybody in this nation is going to be impacted. If you're not impacted now, you're going to be impacted by and by if Social Security is repealed or changed in any significant way. They're talking about benefit changes for the most part. But Social Security, they're saying increase the age from 65 to 68. Some are actually proposing 70 years old before you can collect from Social Security. By the time Arthur Burgess, who's one of my students when I was teaching high school, and his children are grown, my grandchildren, my child is grown, my wife's and our children are grown, there may not be any more Social Security. Or if there is, they're going to have to wait until they're 68 and 70 years old before they can collect on it. And who's to say there's going to be any more left in the pot for them to pull out of? They're saying if we need to change it, we're going to touch it. If we need to alter it, we're going to alter it. Medicaid, CHIP, Social Security. The next one is Medicare. I'm on Medicare right now. Just got on it this year. I'm 65. Well, actually, 2016, November. They want to alter that. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, so forth, and CHIP. Next, they want to alter, change, or just totally eradicate food stamps. That's what they mean when they voted down Sanders' proposal to not change these programs. They're saying that we may and we probably will in some way or another change, if not totally alter, significantly so, any one of these programs, if not all of these programs. The next is child nutrition. This is something that was a pet peeve of, really a pet project rather, of our former First Lady, Michelle Obama. Now she has children eating healthy in school. Well, child nutrition programs will be a thing of the past. The next entitlement program that they said we may change, we may alter, we may destroy is college loans. College loans. So we were hoping that kids wouldn't have to pay back any loans, wouldn't have to pay for college. Well, now you're going to be paying. They said we're going to change significantly the college loans program of the entitlement programs. Another entitlement program is unemployment insurance. Anybody ever been on that? They're going to change it, my dears. They're going to change it. At least they're going to try. But we're going to see something in a minute. The next is the supplemental security income, what we call SSI. It's going to be changed, my hearts. It's going to be changed. Many people that are permanently disabled, permanently challenged with challenged abilities, or significant challenged abilities, or chronic challenged abilities, or terminal challenged abilities, receive a stipend. And that's all it is. It's not a salary or any whole lot of money. A little stipend that we refer to as SSI. Well, we may touch that. We may change that. That's what it means when you say we're not going to accept Bernie Sanders' proposal not to change. It means that you very well may change and probably will change some, if not all, of these entitlement programs. Another one is the veterans' compensation. My goodness. People now go to war and they come back, some of them maimed, some of them lame. Some of them totally, their lives will be totally altered forever. And now they're talking about even changing and doing something to the veterans' compensation. Next is civil service retirement. Those are the people that work in government, postmen. Navy Yardmen. These are the civil servants. Those who work in government jobs that are not military. So they're going to impact the veterans that are military, and they're also going to they may do something. And I always say are going to do something because they say they refuse to guarantee they're not going to change these programs. So you have something in mind that's going to alter them one way or another. And let me tell you, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be something that's going to improve the lot of Americans. So you're talking about virtually every group, just in this program alone, just by voting this down alone. But they say we're not going to change entitlement programs, just these entitlement programs alone. Medicaid, CHIP, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, child nutrition, college loans, unemployment insurance, supplemental security income, veterans compensation, civil service retirement. That's virtually everybody in America. Falls in one of these categories, if not more than one. How if you're a senior citizen that was a veteran, that fought in the Vietnam War? That's my age group. We fought in the Vietnam War. And even our parents are still alive. They could have fought in that's the Korean War. Let's say you fought in those wars. Now you're a senior citizen. which means now your Social Security may be altered, and you're a veteran. And they already said that the veterans compensation may be changed. If you're a wounded warrior, you may be on SSI. We're going to change that. Or you may be on Medicaid. We're going to change that. Or you may be on Medicare. We're going to change that. Young people that are trying to go off to college, well, we're going to change the college loan system. Not for the better, but for the worse, to make it harder for children to begin college and then certainly to end with a degree. So while our eyes are on the White House, we better keep our eyes on the Capitol House as well. That Capitol building where the House of Representatives and the Senate do their business. Because while we're looking at the White House, the man hasn't even signed a bill yet. He's done a little bit of perfunctory things today. He won't really take office until, in terms of actual doing things that really will matter and impact in a powerful way, until Monday. In the meantime, your congressmen and your senators are up there doing whatever they need to do in preparation to whatever he wants to do. So what I say we need to do as American citizens, we need to watch as pit bulls, meaning be watchdogs and pit bulldogs if need be. Watch not just the White House, but the Capitol as well. Watch not just the Oval Office, but the Rotunda as well. We need to watch, prepare, and then act. See, this whole political system is really something. It keeps our eyes and our attention in one direction while they do all this undercover, underhanded stuff somewhere else. So while you're fighting this fight, we've already won this battle, and this is the real fight. You're talking about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans compensation, civil servants retirement, SSI, CHIP, health for children. All of these programs, college loans, come on, food stamps, child nutrition, are about to be ready to be pulled right from underneath of us. Yeah, you watch Donald Trump and all of his cabinet members. Many of them who I wouldn't trust with your life, let alone mine. Many of them will be. 3 have already been approved. The rest will probably be approved. So we need to watch him. Need to watch this administration. But as we're watching the administration, don't forget to watch the congressmen and your senators as well. Don't just get your mind set on Trump and forget about your congressmen and your senators. Don't forget about them. Put them to the test too. Put them on the fire too. Make sure that they're not just keeping your mind on the president, that you forget what they're doing. And if you do have a Republican president that leans their way, whatever they want to do probably will get done. We allow them to be in the majority one more time. Like I told you before, and I'll tell you again, all 435 congresspersons were up for re-election this past election. Every one of them, virtually every one of them, went back in, and they're still a majority. 22 of the senators out of the 100 senators in the Senate were up for re-election. We took out 2 or 3 Democrats. They were defeated. And we took out none of the Republicans. So we put in the Republican president. We sure enough directly put in the Republican senators and the Republican congressmen. Again, we did that because there is no electoral college in the process of electing senators and congressmen. That's strictly the vote of the people. Directly. Does anybody out there in the street, are they protesting? Have they gone to the Capitol building? They're waiting at the parade, but while they're waiting at the parade, the people in the Capitol building are making laws and rules and regulations against you. Hello, Darlene. They're making laws and regulations against you. Come on, America, wake up. Out there confronting police officers, out there causing all kind of ruckus. Trying to cause some kind of problem for the parade to start. He's president, dear hearts. He don't have to walk up and down the streets of Washington, D.C. to prove that point. He was sworn in. That's what he does so the American people can enjoy a little bit of the festivities. He don't have to do that. That's not a part of the Constitution that says he has to have a parade. That's so that the American people can be a part of the process that we've been a part of since the days of George Washington. I shouldn't say we because everybody wasn't a part of it since the days of George Washington. Come on, America. Wake up. Everybody hates history. Nobody likes social studies. But unless you understand both of those courses, which I taught, and which I loved even before I started teaching it, because I know the significance of history. I know all about government because I studied government and I taught political government. Arthur can tell you that I taught him political government when he was in the 10th grade. Darlene knows because she worked at Hope as well. My wife knows because she worked at Hope. That was my thing. I was a history teacher in the high school, and that included every aspect of history. 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. By then they were teaching economics, so I taught them from a historical perspective, economics. But in 10th grade, we talked about the problems of democracy. We talked about government, how government works. We are a three-branch government, the executive, the judicial, and the legislative branches. The executive doesn't have all power. We're not a monarchy and we're not a dictatorship. It takes the cooperation or the resistance of the other branches to check and balance each other. But when we elect people into the executive branch and into the legislative branch that does not have our best interests at heart, that's no one's fault but our own. Now, you can argue the point about the executive branch. You can argue the point about the president because of how that system works. The popular vote and the electoral college vote and all of that. We don't directly vote for the president. We can understand that. Okay. Maybe you didn't want him. Maybe Hillary did get 2 million votes more than Donald Trump in terms of the popular vote. But he was smart enough to understand that it's not the popular vote alone, but the electoral college that wins the presidency. So he used what he knew how to do. He's a businessman, shrewd and savvy, and he knew how to work that electoral college aspect to it. And he won, just like George W. did back in 2000. We didn't do nothing about that in 2000. If we would have ended the electoral college in 2000, there would have been no Donald Trump in 2016. It would have been no more. It would have been strictly a popular vote. But because we did nothing after we squawked about Gore winning the popular vote, but Bush winning the election, because of the electoral college, we were up in arms. People were just as upset, but nobody did nothing. Nobody followed up. It all died out until 2016, and another Republican, the only two Republicans that won elections in the last 16 years have both won it through the electoral college, and neither one won the popular vote. Why is that? Because we don't do what we need to do. Protesting don't mean anything. Turning over cars doesn't mean anything. Confronting police officers in the middle of the street doesn't mean anything. If there's no parade, it don't matter. He's still president. What do you do now? Come on, Americans, wake up. What do you do now? What do we do now? Whether you have physical disabilities or challenges in your ability, which is what I prefer to call it, what my wife coined. I love that phrase. Challenged abilities. Whether you're African American, whether you are a part of the Islamic persuasion and religion, whether you are part of the gay community, whether you're Native American or Hispanic, whether you're a poor person from the backwoods of Tennessee and Mississippi, or part of the inner cities of Detroit and Philadelphia and Baltimore and Chicago, or Watts. What are we going to do as a people to be like watchdogs and, if necessary, be pit bulls in this situation? I'm more concerned about the Congress, to be honest with you, than I am about the president. And I'm watching the president like a hawk. And all of his little cronies that he's going to put in office, I'm watching them like a hawk. But I'm just as concerned, if not more so, in the Congress. First of all, there's more of them. There's 535 members of Congress, 100 in the Senate, 435 in the Congress. The House of Representatives, we call them. There's two houses of Congress. The Senate House and the House of Representatives. 435 in the House of Representatives, 100 in the Senate. That means 535 members of Congress. I'm concerned about them because, to be honest with you, they have more power than the president. A president can veto a law and the Congress can override it by a 2/3 vote. And a president can propose a law, and if the Congress doesn't approve of it by 2/3, or in some cases, in terms of the Senate, by 60 members of the Senate, in some instances, 59 members of the Senate, it won't be a law no matter what the president wants. So turn your attention to the Congress. Hello, Ingrid. We need to have our eyes on the Congress. First of all, we can do more with the Congress because they're direct voting. There is no electoral college when it comes to choosing the senators and the House of Representative members. We decide on that. I've said it, and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to stress it now. We're going to talk about it more and more because we're now in it. We need to limit the terms of congresspersons, both senators and House of Representative members. We need to limit their term to 12 years each in each of those houses. We got senators right now that have been senators for over 40 years. We have congressmen that have been congressmen for over 50 years. Some of you weren't even born when these persons were congresspersons and senators, when they became for the first time. You don't mean there's no corruption, there's no lobbyist influence or anything on these men that have been, I say men because for the most part it's been men that's lasted that long. There is no woman yet that has been in as long as 45 to 50 years. And let me tell you, to be honest with you, they cross racial barriers. The two longest serving congresspersons are African American. The 3 longest senators are naturally Caucasian. But I don't care if you're black or whether you're white or whether you're in between or whatever. Nobody needs to be in office that long because you are certainly susceptible to becoming corrupt. You end up finding yourself in the hands of the bigwigs, the real power brokers of this nation. And the power brokers of this nation don't live in the White House and they don't work in the Capitol building. So what are we going to do? First of all, you start writing your senators and your congressmen about the 2 things I just told you about. You make sure that those entitlement programs aren't changed. Let me say them again. The entitlement programs are Medicaid and CHIP, Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, child nutrition, college loans, unemployment insurance, supplemental security income, which we call SSI, veterans compensation, and civil servants retirement. These are all entitlement programs that the Senate said we're not going to say that we're not going to change any of those. We're not even going to say we're going to change all of those. It's up to us because Bernie Sanders had set up a proposal to the senators, his fellow senators, not to change these entitlement programs, and they voted it down. They said we're not going to say we're not going to change. And considering the structure of the Senate, the numbers of people, Democrat versus Republicans in the Senate, which is now dominated by, well, not dominated, but certainly have a majority who are Republicans, is a good chance that all of these programs, if not most of them, will be altered one way or another. And let me tell you, it will not benefit the American people unless the American people make it benefit them by putting pressure on them, petitioning them, sending letters to their offices, calling their offices. You can find it out on your Google, just exactly who you have 2 senators. Every state has 2 senators, United States senators. One is Bob Casey, and the other one is Tomei. Casey is a Democrat, Tomei is a Republican. That's the senators from Pennsylvania. And everybody has congresspersons. It don't matter how many numbers of people you have in your state, determines how many people you have sitting as congressmen in the House of Representatives. Easy to find out. Once again, go to Google. Hello to my niece. Muff, how you doing? Go to Google and find out exactly who your senator is and who your House of Representative member is. If you want in order to get exactly who your House of Representative member is, once you get into the site, then all you have to do is type your zip code. Mine is 19139. I type it. I find out in fact, if I do that, I can find out both my senator and my representative, who they exactly are. Start writing them. Start writing them. Calling their office, sending petitions, making your voices known. Organize yourself in your community. Everybody that has that senator, everybody who has, your whole state has the senators, but everybody who has that representative that you have. Organize yourselves and send letters saying that we do not want, in this case, the one who kind of repealed or at least denied Sanders' proposal were senators. So you write your senator. Everybody only has 2. Only 2 senators. The Obamacare issue about repealing it. They've already passed that now. They've already passed that. On committee, it's called Resolution 3. Concurrent Resolution 3. That's its entire title. When you call your senator, tell them that we do not want Obamacare, which is really the Affordable Care Act, to be repealed, any part of it, unless you can propose to us a plan that's even more effective, more inclusive than what they like to coin the Obamacare plan. Don't take nothing away from us as Americans that are 25 to 30 million people are benefiting from. Who have never been on before, and it benefits many more than that. Those are people that used to be uninsured that are now insured. And it impacts many more because it impacts the Medicaid program, Obamacare does. It impacts the Medicare program, Obamacare does. It impacts all of them. And then you have the straight up people that have the Affordable Care Act as their only insurance policy. So unless they got a program, a plan, an act, a proposal that's just as effective, if not better, than Obamacare, leave Obamacare alone. Until you can offer up something that's better or just as viable as that plan. Because right now, the Republicans really don't have a real plan. And watch it. Some of the things that I've heard through the grapevine, some of them have a plan, but it's really Obamacare with a name change. There's so much slack already about two parts of the plan that they're almost afraid to touch those two because of the backlash from the people of this country. The one is the pre-existing condition. And the second is that dealing with our children being able to stay on our health plan until they're 26 years old. Those two parts of the plan, they really want to change, but they know the backlash of the people is so significant that they're leery about changing that, at least at first. So I believe they're going to do it through a back door kind of thing. They're going to either cut away at some of the other things that aren't really as controversial to most of the people, or they're going to get rid of it by putting it into another bill that we don't know nothing about, that this thing has been extracted from Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, has been extracted from that and placed into another bill that's defeated and totally demolished. Be careful. They've done that many times before. Something they don't want to agree to, they don't want to enact, they'll put it in, they'll take it out of the original proposal, put it in something else. If they want to do it, they'll still do the same thing. They'll put it in something that is palatable, the thing that people want to have done, and they'll put that part of the bill into that, and they'll call it what everybody likes, and they'll exclude a mention that they also have a part of the bill that nobody likes, so it'll go smoothly into being enacted. So all I'm saying is, Donald Trump is our president. Or if you don't want to say that, you can say this without fear of contradiction. He is the president of the United States of America. And that's without fear of contradiction. That's a fact. Whether you want to admit he's yours, my president or not, he's the president of the United States of America. Barack Obama's gone. He went on a helicopter. I saw him. He waved. Then he went to the airport. He got on a plane. Now he's in Palm Springs. That's where he is right now. Bye, y'all. Great 8 years. And we got to start getting our minds used to the fact that presidents, unlike senators and congressmen, do have term limits. They're only in it for 2 terms, 8 years. Boom. After you finish your 8 years, you're gone. You could be the best president ever sat in the White House. But after your 8 years is up, bye-bye. So, dear hearts, as we enter into the Trump era, let's be mindful of the fact that we should keep our eyes on him and keep our eyes on those 435 congresspersons and those 100 senators that also sit in managing and governing this country called the United States of America. We need to have term limits for our senators and our congresspersons, no doubt about it. And we can do it even without them voting that it be done. Because it's what we do at the polls. We have to educate ourselves, though. We got to find out how long our senators have been in office. We have to find out how long our congresspersons have been in office. Then we got to vote them out. Whether they've been good or bad, we can't say, well, I like Senator so-and-so, so I'm going to keep him in. He can be in there 90 years, it don't matter. But I'm going to put him out because he's been there 4 years. I don't like his policies. No, it don't work that way. It has to be carte blanche. Just like with the President of the United States, we've had bad presidents. We've had presidents that have been up for impeachment. We've had presidents that have resigned. We have presidents that have done all kinds of stuff. The most racist people in this country have been presidents of the United States. So we've had them all. Good, bad, or indifferent. We've had presidents that have been slave owners. So this ain't the first racist. Every president we ever had was racist. To a certain extent, every single one of them was racist. They did not have us in mind when those founding fathers, back then 1776 and 1783 and all of that, when they did all their stuff, and they did not have us in mind as being citizens of this nation. And don't let people fool you into believing we. When they said we the people, they didn't mean us. We were chattel, for the most part. And those free blacks were just, they did not have the privileges of white folk. Be honest, let's be honest. Native Americans didn't have, we weren't even citizens. Native Americans weren't citizens of the United States, and neither were African Americans. Whether you were free or not, you were not a citizen of this country. That's what the 13th Amendment did. Gave African American citizenship. That happened in 1865. We've been over here since 1619. 200 years, over 200 years later, they become citizens. So let's be mindful of history and be mindful of what we're dealing with. We who have physical challenges, developmental challenges, mental challenges, we need to watch too. Not just sit in our wheelchairs and sit back and have things done to us. And we just sit meekly and weakly and humbly and all the rest of that stuff and let things happen to us. We should be tired of that. We're 60 million strong, and we should not be as so weakly represented and so dismissive by the people. We're marginalized by this society, and it shouldn't be that way. America, we have to wake up. America, we have to unite. America, we have to be clear of who we're dealing with, and we have to deal with the whole package in order to get the gift that we need to have. We have to deal with everything. Not just the presidency, but the Congress as well, and the judicial. Those Supreme Court justices, those Common Court justices, we can even talk about them. We can write to the president and say, I don't want you to nominate this person or that person. There's only 8 justices right now. There has to be one selected. We need to write to the president, but I don't want so-and-so as a Supreme Court judge. Because keep in mind, Supreme Court justices last as long as they want to. They can either be here for a few years, or they can be here the rest of their life. It's a life-term position. That should be changed, really. Nothing should be forever. Nothing should be more than 12 to 20 years at max. Nothing. No office. No judge. No legislator, and no president should be any longer than any of that. Because the longer they stay in, the more corrupt they are. Well, dear hearts, I'm ready to end our broadcast today. Keep in mind, we do have a new president. Keep in mind also that in 2018, we're having another election. It's called a midterm election. And once again, all 435 congresspersons are up for re-election. And 25 this time of the senators out of 100, 25 of them are up for re-election as well. What are we going to do? We're going to send the Republicans back in? That's up to you and me. That's not an electoral college decision. That's up to you and me. If I don't do nothing, if I don't go to the poll and vote, those elections we can do something about. Those officers of the government we can do something about if we choose to. What we're doing, waiting for 2020. Don't wait for 2020. Because right now, your congresspersons, both in the Senate and in the House, are already doing you in. They're already, while we're sitting here right now, this just flashed on my cell phone. All the things they've already repealed, are ready to repeal. All the things that they have refused to allow to be unchanged, like Medicare and Medicaid and child nutrition and food stamps and Social Security, like workers' compensation, like veterans' compensation, like unemployment. All those entitlement programs. Even civil servant retirement. They haven't promised to not change any of that. You can bet your bottom dollar they're not going to change anything that impacts their lives. They're not going to cut their health plan, I'm sure. It'll go on and on and on as long as there's a Congress in this nation. So, rioters and protesters out there right now trying to stop the parade, you need to parade yourself right up there to Capitol Hill, too. And talk to those congresspersons as well. Because there are Republicans that are already doing something that's going to impact your life. And your children's life. And your children's children's life. Possibly forever. Well, God bless you. We'll be back again on Monday for another session of Chatting with the Rev. Have a wonderful weekend. Keep your eyes on the prize. And God bless each and every one of you. Talk to you Monday, 3 o'clock.